We are mildly interesting guys, and we talk about some stuff. So welcome to the podcast, we call it Joel the Podcast. It's Alex and it's Alex, here for Joel the Podcast. Okay, hello everybody, I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our podcast,
Joel.
Welcome to episode 53 of our podcast. Today is... I don't know what I'm going to say here. Today is a day...
the day that we're recording this episode.
Today is a day in which Nathan does not owe me $1.
Today is a day in which Alex does not yet owe me $1 by public opinion.
So that's out of the way. Sports. So baseball started in the last week, over the weekend actually, and the Phillies lost 2 out of 3 games to the Miami Marlins. Who are a very real team, I should say.
Imagine losing to a team that doesn't exist 2 out of 3 times.
And then immediately, today, it was reported that I think 14 players and staff on the Marlins have the coronavirus. So
I assume they're tracking the Philadelphia too, since they just played them, right?
Yeah, so they're testing the Phillies today. But the test doesn't come back for like 2 days, I think. So
are they just? I assume they're just, disqualified from continuing to play.
It's really unclear. So the Marlins game and the Phillies games were both canceled for today.
Because they didn't know what the player status was.
Just because the Marlins game was canceled because they have coronavirus, and the Phillies were canceled because they might have it.
Right.
So it's unclear exactly what's going to happen, because the thing is, this is a huge wrench, and I'm surprised that there's not like a clearer plan in place by the MLB for.
Yeah, I mean,
this was inevitable
it's amazing
to happen.
That they didn't. Right. It's like they really should. All that time they spent saying like, "Oh, we're only going to play the players, or pay the players 70% of their salaries," or whatever other nonsense they were talking about. Why didn't they use that time to come up with like an actual plan for playing baseball in a pandemic?
Yeah, so bad job MLB, and I'm very annoyed. Although the owners did meet today and determine that they will not cancel the season. So that's good, I guess.
For them.
But I've already relegated this season to the toilet anyway, so
yeah.
Since we lost 2 out of 3 to the Marlins.
That's got to be a down. Was that the first games that the Phillies played?
Yep.
So, yeah, it started on the worst possible note.
It was nice to have baseball back for a couple days. Yeah, so we'll see how this goes, but I'm looking forward to basketball and hockey starting up this week.
Did we make I feel like we made a baseball prediction a while back, right?
Yes.
So we should probably take this opportunity while baseball has definitely started and has not yet been canceled in disgrace to point out how correct we were that they were going to play.
They did play at least a few games. My dad actually thought they wouldn't play any games, so
maybe that would have been the smarter choice, but then we wouldn't have been right.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how this affects the NFL, actually, because basketball and hockey are both in a bubble, meaning they're all just in one area and they can't leave without, having to quarantine again before they can come back. So I think those will be much more easily controlled. And so the question is, what will the NFL do now? Because baseball, although it's still developing right now, it seems like they've shown that it's really impossible to have no restrictions, like to just have the teams go to each city and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
As long as you test them, doesn't seem really like a valid strategy. So The issue is that the NFL has a lot of players.
And like coaches and staff, right? Football
Yes.
organizations are just ridiculous.
They've got to be at least 3 times or more larger than even baseball teams, which themselves are larger than basketball teams.
Yes.
So I wonder if it's even like feasible to, quarantine like 1,000 people together for the NFL season, and if that would, and especially since NFL games only occur once a week, that's a very extended quarantine. So I suspect they won't be in a bubble. So the question is, will they learn from the MLB's mistake and have some better plan in place? And I'm hopeful, but not optimistic, which is kind of depressing.
That's the story of the state of the world right now.
Yep.
Hopeful, but not optimistic.
So anyway, on to sports that actually matter, meaning Marble League.
Yep.
So
no confirmed cases of coronavirus among
I don't think a
League
single
teams.
Marble has been confirmed to ever have coronavirus. So
no, not just the competitors, but the fans. They're packing the stands. They
exactly.
seem to they've figured it out.
I wonder if Marble League has actually seen an uptick in viewership due to the coronavirus.
I wonder if that would. Almost certainly they have, because of our podcast.
Oh yeah, our podcast alone
highlighting
is
the
like
events.
Right, plus 50%. But
so
I meant like excluding us. Like if you accounted for that, like how much would they have gotten?
Yeah.
Just if we hadn't.
Is it possible to filter out such a massive effect that
probably
we've had?
not? So I guess we'll never know.
Right. One of the great mysteries of life.
But anyway, we saw 2 events since the last week. We saw
a good one and a bad one.
We saw triathlon, which was an excellent event, so interesting. Which the O Rangers took the bronze medal in, and extended their lead in the overall standings.
I'm happy that they did very well, right? But
Uh-huh.
up until the very end, it looked like they were going to pull off gold.
Yeah.
So I can't help but be a little bit disappointed in just a bronze.
That ending was so exciting, honestly. It was.
Yeah.
I was actually like, the listeners can't see, but like, visibly gesticulating, even though there was no one around while I was watching.
Yeah. Definitely enough to make me, sit forward in my seat and
breathe slightly more quickly.
Yeah. And then afterwards go, ugh.
Yeah, but bronze is still pretty good. And then they also had sand moguls.
Yeah.
Which, like, it was so dumb. It's like a sand hill with a few little bumps in it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna have moguls, make it like more serious, like back and forth kind of thing.
Right.
So of course the O Rangers did terribly in the sand moguls, coming in like 16th or.
Well, there's only 16 teams,
12th.
So they weren't quite that bad.
They came in like 12th, I think.
It was around there, yeah. They didn't make it out of the first round, which they were like the first run, right? Like they were part of the first
heat.
grouping heat, and I watched them go, and I was like, oh, they came in. Did they come in 4th in their heat?
I think they came in. Yeah, they came in a close 4th.
Yeah.
Or maybe 3rd. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter.
It was 3rd or 4th, and only the top 2 from each one advanced. And I was like, well, that sucks. At the very beginning of the video, I knew they're screwed.
Yeah.
So I was just watching the rest of it, kind of hoping that the not crappy teams would win. And
yeah. And the Oceanics did pull it out. I have to say, I'm starting to like the Oceanics more and more. Like, I started liking them in the previous event, in the triathlon, because the announcer was talking about how they wanted to do well in the water events, and then they lost.
Did terrible.
I really started, and in the second one, when they showed their fans in the stands, I really love the blue that thought their marbles are. I'm pulling for.
They're
I'm
one of the
Oceanics
teams.
are. Go ahead.
they're one of the teams that I think has a bit more character to it.
Right.
There's like the Oceanics have some sort of story behind them, whereas teams like Momo and
It's like, what is
the
that?
Green Ducks, you're like, yeah, all right,
Crazy cat's eyes.
you're just filler in the events, so that there's more than 3 teams that actually are interesting.
Right. So I would say that the Oceanics are my second favorite team now.
Yeah. Yeah,
And of course, you were. Go ahead.
I've basically found myself agreeing with your opinions and kind of. I think the Oceanics one is one that most independently formed. I think the O Rangers association came obviously from our beginnings in the Marble League.
You are being very. You're cutting in and out a lot here.
Well, hopefully it's just the Skype. I don't think the audio recordings are picking it up.
No, yeah, the audio recording isn't, but I can't understand you.
Yeah, I guess you'll just have to
All right.
listen to the episode. I forgot what I was saying though. So.
You were saying that we developed that liking of the Oceanics independently.
Oh
which
yeah.
is true. And you were telling me that you are coming to dislike the Minty Maniacs now.
That's right. Yeah.
Which I'm excited about.
Seeing them do well in this Sand Mogul event was irritating, which was unexpected.
Nice.
So there you go. We've converged on opinion on these marbles.
Yeah, so send us your thoughts on Marble League, as always. You can find our email at our website, which is alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website. And let us know anything. I was considering doing a super smooth transition by saying speaking of emails, but I do want to say that that I took a breath in the middle of saying the website that time, whereas sometimes I start saying it and then realize I'm short of breath, but I'm too committed. I can't breathe at the end, so I have to rush it all out. Anyway, speaking of emails, I believe we received an email this week, so
we did receive one email. It came to us on the 22nd. I don't know what that was.
That was 5 days ago.
That was Wednesday, so that was actually when we recorded.
The day we recorded.
Right. It came to us obviously from David right after he joined us on the episode, which hasn't been released yet, by the way. I mean, obviously, as the listeners are listening to this now, it has. But I guess maybe we'll go back to I'll just put that one out this upcoming Wednesday, and then this one will come out next week, and we'll be back to having a buffer. That way, when we inevitably skip a week in 3 weeks or something, it just won't matter.
Right. So yeah, I guess then we apologize for missing a week there. We just forgot to podcast. That's it.
Yeah. So our lone email this week comes to us from David. Subject line is "I'm a dumbass." And David says to us, "My thoughts when I'm on Joel the podcast." And then he's attached a picture of Mr. Rogers drawing a very basic picture on this easel. And the caption says, "I'm not very good at it, but it doesn't matter." And I think that's very wholesome and very true. You're not very good at it. We had to
well,
really.
You had to.
So okay, first of all, real thoughts are listening back to that episode, it didn't seem like anybody was any better or worse at being on the podcast than anyone else. However, I guess maybe this is partially on us for not explaining all of the ways we do this, because we just do this every week, right? And it doesn't doesn't really
we're
occur to us
experts, and
anymore.
we don't realize that other people aren't as knowledgeable as we are.
Right. So, but here's the problem. Here's the thing. The thing that happened that that I became very aware of as I was putting together this past episode. So Alex and I, as we record, we both record on a separate device from the one that the Skype call is taking place on. And the key there is that on the device you are taking the call on, that device's audio should go to earbuds or something straight into your ears so that the recording device can't hear it. And that is what David did not do. And so if there's any weird audio things in the past episode, consider this the explanation for that. And I tried to make it pretty good, and I think it turned out pretty good. And the actual content, as always, was amazing,
Flawless.
perfect in every way, and including David's contributions. So, just making it very clear that your podcasting abilities are, not quite on our level, but just about there. And
yeah, I mean it's hard to be on our level. So
yeah.
it's kind of an unreasonable standard, but you did do a very good job.
Yes, but step up your audio recording game next time, and I'll have to put in a lot less effort, which is all I really ever want. So
yeah, so big shout out to Nathan for going through that entire podcast and editing out all the stray audio.
Yeah, it wasn't so.
Right.
I think the key takeaway from me listening to that episode and paying careful attention to who was talking at what time, there's two things to pay attention to that I took away. Number one is, for the most part, everyone does a really good job of not talking over each other, so that it was pretty clear when I had to cut, extraneous audio. And
Nice.
Number two is, the exception to that was almost always me talking over David. And listening back to the recording, I heard a lot of things that David said that I just didn't hear in the podcast, and I feel a bit bad about that. He had some like good lines, that we just didn't acknowledge because I was also talking. And so,
David, consider this a post-recording acknowledgement of all your good lines.
yes, it was very good. And I laughed during the recording. It made it enjoyable because I was genuinely hearing new bits of the podcast that I didn't hear before, despite being there when it was recorded.
Nice.
So,
speaking of recording issues, I should note that I forgot to record our Skype session, so hopefully your manual recording works out.
well, really, I can see it working right now, and really what's happened in the past is just I didn't save it right away, and then eventually it, the program closed because my computer did something or whatever. So, as long as I save the recording at the end of the episode, we'll be fine.
All right, let's start the podcast.
Yep, we're a healthy 18 minutes in or so. I'd call that a good introduction.
Yeah. So today, since we're so good at coming up with great content, with no help, we'll be getting help with coming up with content today. So we have gone to randomlists.com/topics, and we're just going to generate random topics and talk about them. So
lists of topics, no less.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll be generating 8 topics at a time. Oh, it looks like you can actually control how many are generated at a time.
Wow. I mean, 8's a pretty solid number.
Yeah, I think 8's pretty good. So we'll be generating these and talking about them, and hopefully we'll be funny, I guess. So here we go. I'm going to hit rerun, so I'll generate a fresh list. Topic number 1, giraffes. What are your thoughts on giraffes?
Oh man. I don't think about giraffes all that often,
Yeah, same.
but when I do, it's always in kind of, a vaguely positive connotation. Yeah, so there's animals out there where if you like hear about them, you're like, "Oh, that's a this kind of animal or that kind of animal." And sometimes that's like a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. I feel like giraffes have this kind of like very positive connotation, even though from what I know of like real giraffes, they're not really necessarily all that great of an animal. It's just that they're one of the kind of like default animals that young children learn, at least in my limited experience.
Have you ever seen a giraffe in real life?
Um, Almost certainly, yeah. Like I've been to zoos and things, but I don't specifically remember seeing a giraffe. I don't
The
have
gir-
any like, you know, impactful giraffe memories.
right. The giraffes are interesting. First of all, giraffes are a very unique animal, which you don't like. They have a very unique feature that almost no other animal has, which you don't often see in animals.
I assume you're talking about their long neck.
I'm talking
right?
about their long neck. Yes.
Okay.
Like
I
I
was
can't.
kind of hoping that I was about to learn something really fun about giraffes there, but it's just like the one. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, here's a fun fact about giraffes. Uh, Giraffes have the same number of vertebrae in their neck as humans. So there's your fun giraffe fact.
Yeah. Does that
but
so? I guess that means that their necks seem really flexible still, though. I guess it's not that big a deal. Our necks are really flexible. It's just that
Yep.
theirs are longer and flexible.
Yeah, that's
All right, that wasn't that
that's an
interesting
astute
of
observation.
a
So
thought.
I have seen giraffes up close. Actually, I don't remember where, but there
Yeah.
was some zoo, I guess, where you can go into like this pavilion that's like raised above the ground, so the giraffes like come right up.
Oh,
And
you're like
some,
at giraffe head height.
yeah, well, a little bit lower, and some you can either the trainers do or maybe you can. I actually don't fully remember. You can see the giraffes being fed from the pavilion,
Right.
which is pretty cool. So overall, I would say giraffes are a pretty good animal, and I like them. So
Yeah.
all right, let's move on to our next very different topic: apes. What are your
Apes.
thoughts on apes?
Um. Okay, so when you say ape is like the kind of blanket term for lots of things, right? Lots of different kind of monkey like or like, primate
this is the
kind of.
extent of my knowledge of what an ape is. It comes from Veggie Tales, a silly song with Larry. If you don't know what that is, please look it up. But the song goes, "If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey, even if it has a monkey kind of shape. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey, it's an ape." So I guess apes are like
Interesting.
tailless monkeys. And if it has a tail, it's a monkey. I actually don't know if that's even accurate, but
So like a gorilla is an ape.
right, a gorilla
And
would
a
be an ape,
Chimpanzee is an ape.
I guess. I don't actually know if chimpanzees have tails.
I don't think so. I also don't really know.
I
Feel
think
free to
we have-
email us and call us idiots
Yeah.
if we don't know what.
Call us dumbasses and inform us about apes because we seem to
Right.
not actually know anything.
We should probably move on.
Yeah, let's move on to the next very different topic: hippopotamus.
Did you generate like a list of animals this time? When you were reading these beforehand, they were like
The top 3 just happen to be animals this time.
interesting.
The
Okay,
next,
well,
the next 5 are not animals.
great.
Well, kind of. We'll get to that. So,
Some exciting.
any thoughts on hippopotamus?
If I don't, so like, I feel like what I have seen recently about hippopotamuses, or hippopotami as they might be known,
Yeah, I don't actually know what the correct plural is of hippopotamus.
Maybe it's just hippopotamus.
It could be, since all actually most of the nouns on this topic list seem to be plural, so maybe it's saying hippopotamus is an indication that that is the plural. I don't know, but anyway, carry on. What about your
Yeah.
what you were saying?
I think they're like more dangerous than most people kind of picture them being, right? Because they're
Yeah,
really
they're
large.
surprisingly fast, I think.
Yeah. And they're not
They're
like, calm and friendly. They're wild
mean.
animals.
Right. There's a
Yeah,
Tumblr
really big
post
ones.
floating around the internet about about this exact thing, and somebody makes a comment that's like, imagine aliens invading Earth and they easily take out humans, but they weren't prepared for hippopotamuses. And they just get wrecked.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the topic of hippopotamus wouldn't be complete without mentioning the song "I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas."
Mm.
Not
That's a
any
good,
comment about it, just mentioning it.
Yeah. No, I support that as well.
Yeah. So, all
The
right.
other thing that
I-
comes to my mind, just real quick, we don't have to mention it at all, is that there is a hippopotamus and a giraffe, now that I think about it, in the movie Madagascar.
Yes.
For some
Yes.
reason,
I think
that
the
movie immediately came
hippopotamus-
to mind with hippopotamus, but not at all with giraffe.
I think hippopotamus
Even though they're both in the movie.
is the hippopotamus in that movie is called Gloria. So
That's right.
I'm not sure how I remember that, but I do. So there you go. Let's move on to the next
Yep.
topic that's technically not an animal: fishing. Have you ever been fishing?
I have been fishing. The thing
This is a
about me and
terrible
fishing
episode.
is that I don't like fish. I don't like eating fish. I'm not a big seafood fan. I also don't like touching fish,
They are kind of gross and
or
slimy.
at least when I was like a little kid, when I went fishing, I definitely didn't like touching fish. I'm sure
Right.
if somebody like handed me a fish now, I'd be really confused, but not like, averse to touching the fish. Although,
Right.
if I had the choice, I still wouldn't do it.
My humorous anecdote about fishing is that when I was younger, I would go fishing with my dad, but I couldn't bait the hook because I felt bad for the worms
Oh,
as I
yeah.
was, impaling them. So
Right.
I
I mean, it's
wasn't
pretty-
able to do that.
It's pretty terrible because like the way you want to do it is to like, thread their entire wormy body around the hook.
Oh no.
You're not just poking them on kind of perpendicular to the hook. You wanna really get them on.
Yeah,
there so
no,
that-
I got it. So, I have been fishing, but I haven't been fishing in a while, and I really have no desire to go fishing.
yeah.
But it seems like a relaxing thing for people who like it. Have you ever caught a fish?
I think so. Again, it's been at least 10 years since the last time I went fishing.
Right.
But
Catching a fish
I'm-
is pretty cool. I gotta say that.
yeah,
So, when
It's-
it does happen, it's very interesting.
I think the activity of fishing to me is roughly equivalent to the activity of relaxing on a boat or by a lake or something like that. In that the fishing doesn't add a whole lot to the experience for me. I don't need that to be there. I like doing the other stuff.
Right. Yeah, I feel that. All right. Let's move on to our next topic: murderers. I would say murderers are bad. What do you think?
Huh. Well, I mean, generally you're correct.
All right. What do you mean generally? You think there are some good murderers?
There probably are, right? Like murder in like a legal sense, probably if you're convicted of like the legal kind of murder, that's bad. But
Right.
murder as in killing someone else, I that's has the potential to be more complicated.
Right. And I actually think that even if you're convicted of murder, although I would never consider it to be morally justified, you could have a more sympathetic story, like, you were being legally screwed over by a person or a company or whatever, and you decided to take matters into your own hands and take revenge by killing this person,
Right.
which probably still bad, not probably, still bad, but a little bit more understandable than just randomly killing someone else.
Yeah, like so I guess murder is kind of is was the topic murder or murderers?
Murderers.
I suppose it doesn't really matter because we can still talk about murder. That's related enough. It's kind of a
Seems kind of
murder.
tenuous to me.
Let's frame it this way then. A murderer is as a general rule, most likely. There are lots of exceptions to this, I'm sure. The badness of the murderer is inversely proportional to the badness of the person they murdered.
I suppose one could frame it that way.
It might not be a super strong correlation because you could have a bad person murdering other bad people, but let's put it this way: there's no good people that are murdering good people. I think probably.
Yep, I would say
I
that's
mean
probably accurate.
that's at least generally true.
Yeah. So, all right, interesting discussion on murderers. Let's
Yeah,
move on to our next topic, vegetables.
I do
Um,
not like most vegetables.
yeah, me neither. I actually have a few thoughts on this, because my siblings and I have taken to cooking a meal once a week, for our family, and I and it's tough to come up with new ways to make vegetables. Like, I
Yeah,
suppose there actually are plenty of ways you can cook vegetables, but it's just like I don't want to eat any of them. So it's like there's a very limited number of things that we can actually make that are like I'm willing to eat this. It's like you've got the basic salad, which is a
yeah,
classic.
yep,
You've got like um raw vegetables with like, ranch dressing or whatever kind of dip. Excuse me. Those are like the two main ones. And then
right.
there's other like dishes you can make that's like cucumber salad, which is like not the same thing but still good.
Hmm.
Um, you know, uh, corn. What am I thinking of? Some kind of corn dish. I'm just rambling at this point. What are your other thoughts on vegetables?
So I made a very blanket statement in the beginning, but actually it does depend on the preparation of the vegetables. And I think the more preparation has it to some extent, the more preparation that's been done to the vegetables, the more likely I am to like it, I think. So I've had some cooked carrots that are in, some sort of sweet sauce or something like that, um, that I find better than just raw carrots, even though raw carrots are like also okay, I guess.
Right. So I do have to say I somewhat agree with you. A lot of people tend to just like I tend to like cooked vegetables that are just like, you boiled it or whatever,
Yeah,
less than raw. Like, I would rather have raw carrots than cooked carrots, or
yes,
raw cauliflower than cooked cauliflower. Um, that being said, though, if you put it like in a dish, like you kind of were mentioning, I definitely would
right,
prefer that to raw.
yes,
Um, so, real quick, let's run through a few vegetables and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. And it's a vegetable scale. So 10 is like the best vegetable, not the
okay,
best food.
got it.
So, here we go. Carrots, 1 to 10.
8.
I'd give carrots an 8 as well.
All right.
Cauliflower.
I genuinely don't know if I've ever eaten cauliflower.
You've never eaten cauliflower?
I don't think so.
All right, well, I'll answer for you. Cauliflower is like a 3.
Okay.
Broccoli.
Broccoli is a 5.
Broccoli's a 4 for me.
Okay.
Barely better than cauliflower. Cauliflower, you know what? Cauliflower's demoted to 2. Asparagus.
Um 3.
Ooh, 1 for me.
Yeah.
What else? Corn.
6.
Oh man, I gotta say corn is the best vegetable. 10,
Yeah.
10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 vegetable for me. What about peas?
2.
Ooh, peas are like a 5 for me.
Yeah, I don't like peas.
All right, so there's our take on some vegetables, and email us with your vegetable thoughts. All right. Topic number 7 brings us to Americans.
Ooh boy, that's complicated.
Yeah, I'm wondering if
So
we should even just skip this topic.
I don't know. I think there for this sort of format where you're just quickly saying some things about topics. I know we've already made some sweeping generalizations, but Americans I think is one of the things that I feel least able to generalize about. There's just so many different kinds of Americans. And I think lots of Americans don't consider that there's lots of other Americans.
I think, yeah. I honestly, the quote that comes to mind for me is from something I was watching recently. The quote is, "There's no good guys or bad guys. There's just people living their lives," and I think that applies to Americans a lot
Yeah.
because a lot of times, especially if you're on the internet, it's easy to see Americans as like divided on one side or the other, and depending upon your perspective, one side would be the good guys or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think most Americans are just kind of you know living just being American and not subscribing to a strict side,
Yep.
one or the other. And I do have to say that I think a lot of most Americans are proud to be Americans, which is generally a good thing. And yeah, I have no additional comments.
Yeah. On the other hand, I think we both probably have lots of additional comments, but that's not where this podcast is going.
I have no
so-
additional comments in general about Americans. I
All
like
right.
Americans. Topic number 8, vanilla.
Vanilla is underrated.
I was gonna say the same thing. Vanilla is very good,
It is.
and it gets a rep for being just kind of meh, just because it's so common. But there's a reason it's so common. It's because it's very good.
Yes.
So vanilla is underrated. On that we can agree. So
If
all
I
right.
were buying ice cream on my own, my own choice, I would buy chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream. I know
All right.
a lot of there are at the store you go and you see lots of different types of ice creams, and there's all the ice creams that are like a chocolate or vanilla base with stuff mixed in, like cookie
Right.
dough or peanut butter or whatever. And those are good. But just chocolate and just vanilla ice cream,
I don't know if you cut out or you're just waiting for me to say something.
I probably cut
Yeah, you're
out.
frozen. Oh,
Oh no.
kind of both. I will make a comment that I was gonna ask you if you're ever unfrozen. What ranking out of all ice cream flavors would you give vanilla? Because personally, I think vanilla is like number 3 or 4 at the lowest for me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Um, that's about the range I would put it in as well. I think a chocolate ice cream is ahead of vanilla ice cream, and there's probably a couple of more kind of specialty types of ice cream that I would rank more highly, but it's just yeah,
And the
like
other,
you can hardly go wrong with vanilla ice cream.
precisely. And the last comment I would want to make about vanilla is that without a doubt, vanilla is the best base flavor for like a sundae or anything with a lot of toppings.
It's absolutely true.
Even better than chocolate or
Yep.
really anything else. So,
Yep.
all right, let us generate a new set of topics. Number 1, breweries.
That's an interesting one. Um, I don't really know a whole lot about breweries, but I like them.
Yeah, I would say I don't like beer, so I really have never been to a brewery. So yeah, that's it. That's all I can say.
There you go. I think most of my friends aren't very interested in beer, so I don't have people that I would go to breweries with. Um, so I haven't been to any either, even though I live near several.
Nice.
Sooner or later, I will
Get to
go
one.
and enjoy it. I'm sure.
Yep. All right. Topic number 2, books.
Books are very good. I've
Books
been
are
reading
very
more
good.
recently, and that's a good decision.
So, I will take this opportunity to tell you about the books I've been reading recently. And if you're actually interested in the genre, maybe I can convert you. But so I've been reading books by an author named Brandon Sanderson.
I know Brandon Sanderson.
Have you ever read any of his books?
Maybe a couple, but I know he has some like intense series.
Yeah. So Brandon. So he has a universe
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
Not all of his books are in the universe, but he has a universe called the Cosmere. And so the books in it are pretty much mostly unrelated, but they have little things tying them all together. Like, for example, there's a character who appears in many of the books.
Yeah.
So, but it's a fantasy genre, and Brandon Sanderson, in my opinion, is a master at creating various different kinds of magic systems.
Yeah.
So I've taken it. So a couple years ago, I read a book called The Way of Kings. Honestly, it's probably like 5 years ago at this point. Which is the first book in a series called the Stormlight Archive. And I read the other books in the series that are out. There's now 3 books in the series out. And then recently I discovered the subreddit for that series, and there's also a meme subreddit which is separate. But the meme subreddit is for all the books in the universe, the Cosmere.
Right.
It's not just for that series. So you see like different memes, and you're like, oh, I should like read this series to understand what's going on here. And so I've now read. So I read the entire the entire Stormlight Archive. The other main series in the Cosmere is called Mistborn, which actually is kind of like 2 separate series, because there's like a trilogy and then like a break of like several hundred years, so it's not any of the same characters, and then another 3 books.
Yeah.
The 4th one planned. So I've read all those, and then there's one other novel called Elantris, which I just finished, and then there's a bunch of like short stories and novellas and stuff, which I'm in the process of reading right now. So highly recommend for anyone who likes fantasy to read Brandon Sanderson. All right,
Yeah.
that was probably too long.
I'll have to. Here's a tip for anyone who maybe has never heard of this before. When I moved here, within the first month or so, I think we may have discussed this on the
We
podcast.
did.
Actually, I got my library card,
Yeah.
and I haven't been back to the library since. But There are a handful of apps you can get, and the one I use is called Overdrive, where um, get you can borrow ebooks and audiobooks through your library electronically.
Nice.
And so, most recently, I did that reading through the Artemis Fowl series again, maybe
Great
a
series.
couple months ago. I watched the movie earlier this
Ooh.
week.
How was it?
Thumbs
Down. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm just not going to watch it at this
Yeah,
point.
I think so. I mean, that's definitely a valid choice, but if you're interested, we could make a podcast of it. I
Oh,
bet.
that actually might
So,
be worth it. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I just whatever. I'm gonna tell you right away that I had seen a lot of hate for the movie, so I knew it was going to be bad going in.
right, low expectations.
Low expectations, and the movie still disappointed.
Oh, oof.
Honestly, so
Yeah. Artemis Fowl is honestly another excellent series that everyone should read.
yes, agreed.
It's more science fiction than fantasy, but kind of a little of both.
Yeah, it's like the science fictioniest fantasy sort of crossover, I guess, because it's about like fairies and stuff, but it's not.
But it's not like magic. I mean, it is magic.
Read the
it's-
series, and you'll understand.
Yeah.
So, all
Honestly,
right,
just read the first book. The first book is in my opinion the best book in the series,
yeah,
and it is really one of my favorite books. I have a hard time ranking my favorite books, but that is one of them.
it's definitely a good one. I think the rest. I like the rest of the series for the development of the characters. Like, it's really cool to see where they go. But some of the more recent ones, and I actually haven't read. I think maybe the most recent one or two books in the series. I started to kind of feel like, oh, it's just there's more stuff getting tacked on here rather than
Right.
continuing a story arc. But definitely the first book, and I would like several of them after that are very good.
Yep. All right. So, go read Artemis Fowl. All right. Topic number 3, cows.
Cows?
Yep. So there's 3 more animals on this list before, like 3 including cows. So be forewarned.
Yikes. Okay, well, cows.
Cows are kind of gross, honestly,
Yeah.
but they give us milk, and I drink a lot of milk. So
Yes.
thanks, cows,
Also, beef
and
I am-
cheese.
Yes, there's a lot to like about cows.
There's a lot to like about cow products.
Yes.
Maybe not cows themselves.
It's kind of nice and also kind of terrible depending on how you look at it, that we are able to be so isolated from the actual cow and
Right.
yet enjoy all of the cow products.
Yeah, I think it's just nice. I don't think it's terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right. No more comments about cows. We move on to our next animal, alligators.
Do you know what the difference is between alligators and crocodiles?
I have zero idea. I think it may have... Well, I don't have zero idea. I think it may have to do with the shape of their mouth, but that's...
It does. The alligators have like a more squarish nose, like it's kind of blunt, and then crocodiles, their mouth comes to a point at the tip.
interesting to know.
Yep.
Now I'll know when I'm getting mauled, but I'll know which one is
Exactly.
mauling me. Actually, fun fact, you can actually hold an alligator's mouth closed with your bare hands.
Yeah, I've heard of that one as well.
So, if you're being attacked, just hold its mouth closed. Easy.
They're also very quick in the water and not
yeah.
so quick on land.
So,
So here's your survival guide to alligators from 2 guys who have never seen an alligator in real life and just remember the facts from elementary school science class that we were randomly taught. Isn't it kind of weird how there were like some things like that I definitely learned in elementary school science class, but like I don't know why we were taught those things.
Yeah, why do I need to know that I can hold an alligator's mouth shut?
Yeah.
Is there an alligator apocalypse impending where there's just going to be alligators that are taking over the world?
Oh man, if only it were that simple.
Oh no.
What's next?
Pharmacy.
Pharmacy is an interesting topic.
Pharmacy, okay, honestly, I don't think any of our listeners, our current listeners, would be able to help me with this. But if anybody listening, knows much about pharmacy, I would love to hear about it because, send us an email. Because, I had a friend who was a pharmacy major when we were at Purdue. And at Purdue, it's like a 6-year program, I think.
Yep.
So I was there when she was like in the middle. So her first year was before we got there, and her last year was after we left.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
And it's a very difficult. Like, there's a lot of work involved.
Yes.
Like, I would say she was probably the hardest working person that I knew. Like, in terms of the work required for her major.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I don't actually know what a pharmacist would do aside from just fill your prescription. Like, it seems like you would not need a degree to do that. So maybe maybe one of our listeners know, but I'm very curious to know what pharmacists do.
I do actually know a little bit about this because my grandpa is a pharmacist.
Okay.
Or was
all right.
before he retired. And I can tell you from my experience, the questions that we would ask him relating to pharmacy were things like, I am taking this medication and I would like to take some painkillers because reason. Are there going to be any adverse effects of that? And he would know things like that.
Okay. So knowing the interactions between different...
The interactions between
medicine.
The correct way to use things for
right.
different ages and sizes of people,
Yeah, honestly, thinking about it, like, medicines must be such a complicated industry. That makes sense now that you mention that.
It's like chemistry, but with people. So
it's like a very specific kind of chemistry.
Yes. And I definitely obviously don't know a whole lot about the specifics of it, but I have a lot of respect for that as a field because it's very, as sciences go, it seems very squishy. If you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I don't, but...
So.
All right, so cool.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to a much better topic: accordions.
Accordions. I have been for the past several months on this.
Are you about to tell me you've been learning accordion?
No, but I would love to, honestly. Obviously I own an automaton.
Yes.
Which I think kickstarted my weird instrument habit.
I can't believe you just said the name of it.
Oh, didn't we say that in a previous episode though?
I don't remember.
I feel like that's come out before.
Well, anyway, carry on.
So I also own and happen to have within arm's reach a melodica. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
I am familiar.
It's got the little tube on it that you blow and then you press the keys and it makes harmonica-like sounds. But
my choir teacher in high school had one.
Yeah, it's super entertaining. I was having a discussion one day about it, and we were wondering how it worked. And I was like, "Well, I have no idea, but here it is on Amazon for $25. So I'll order one and find out."
So when was this?
Just out of curiosity. Honestly, is money well spent. Very entertaining instrument.
When did you get it? Just out of curiosity.
But my weird instrument habit. Huh?
When did you get it?
Oh, geez, you cut up super bad.
When did
you just fast forwarded like 5 seconds?
I'm typing it in the chat.
Chipmunk speak. Ugh, gross. This.
It's a shame.
When did you get it?
It's a shame. Yeah. When did you get it?
I got it in March
Got it. All right, that was
of this
way
year.
too much effort to find that out. Anyway, carry on with your story. Oh wait, that was the end of your story.
That's pretty much the end of the story. The continuation of the story is since then I've been doing a lot more research about other sorts of weird instruments, and I'm excited to purchase and learn how to play more weird instruments. And I was looking up accordions. They're one, very expensive, and two, before I knew anything about accordions, I was like, how could you possibly play such a thing? But having read about how they work, it's actually both simpler and more complex than I had imagined.
That's not possible.
It's well, let me really quickly describe it to you, and you will probably just disagree with that description. But anyway, so if you're familiar with the accordion, you have the bellows that actually produces the air pressure to make it work, right?
Right.
On one end, you likely have a keyboard that you
Right.
play melodies with, and on the other end, there's like a bank of buttons,
Yep.
and the buttons are for chords.
Okay.
And on the fanciest ones, you'll have like rows of buttons and columns of buttons, and the rows will be like C, D, E, F.
Uh-huh.
The quality of
columns
chord,
are
and
different
then
inversions.
the columns. No, the columns will be like major, minor, diminished,
Oh, okay,
seventh,
yep.
all sorts of different things, so you can get like complicated harmony out of the other hand. So you're like, in a way, I suppose it's kind of like playing piano, where you've got like a melody going on in one hand and a harmony in the other hand,
Right.
as you wiggle your arms in
you're
and out
frozen.
to make the stupid thing make any sound.
Because
But,
Steam is trying to start up.
it's very interesting. I would love to mess around with them, but they're kind of expensive.
Well,
They're
this
not the
part
sort
of the
of thing
recording
that you
will
would
just
just
be
buy because they're kind of funny
An
to
overlap of us
noodle around
talking
with.
because
So maybe someday when I'm
I heard one word.
obscenely wealthy.
This is not good. Are you there now?
I'm going to have to listen to this podcast to understand your half of this section, because it was just
My half
garbled
is
nonsense.
My half is me saying, "Oh, I cannot hear you at all. You are completely frozen." This part of the podcast is just going to be us talking over each other.
Well, that's a bummer. All right.
We only produce the highest quality content here on Joel the Podcast.
The thing, it's dumb because both of our halves are going to sound perfectly fine, but then there's going to be these random moments of us being like, I have no idea
Right.
what's going on.
The listeners won't be able to experience these interruptions, so it'll just sound really stupid. Like, they'll hear me saying like 4 times, "When did you get it?" about the melodica or whatever it's called,
Yep.
and
yep.
you not answering the first 3 times. Just ignoring it.
Very
Alright.
dumb. What's next?
Balloons.
I don't have complicated feelings about balloons. They're kind
Balloons
of
are
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
If you put, it's honestly like more fun than it should be to just like hit around a balloon,
Yes.
like in that, like keep the balloon in the air. That's very fun.
I definitely agree with that. And the other thing that comes to mind with balloons is, have you ever sucked helium out of them and then
I personally have
spoken a
never done
high-pitched
that.
voice?
Or maybe I did. Remember Jasmine one time got a balloon with helium in it?
I think that's what I'm thinking of when I did
Yeah,
it.
no, I think I did participate in that.
That's pretty fun.
Oh, that is hilarious. All right, and that brings us to our final topic on this list, which is donkeys.
I honestly don't really know anything about donkeys. If you mix a donkey and a horse, you get a mule.
I think donkeys look kind of dumb.
They do. They're kind of like
Um,
horses, but they're different, right?
They're like dumber looking horses.
Dumber looking horses. They've got to
That's
be
about
good
all
for
I-
something.
That's about all I know about them.
Yeah.
Also, Eeyore is a donkey.
Are they native to different parts of the world?
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I have no idea. I was gonna make some baseless assertion, but I really don't know.
What do people come to this podcast for if not baseless assertions? All right, here's how it is. Donkeys come from like Central Asia, like the Mongols and stuff that they had horses. Wait a minute, did
Yeah.
I say donkeys at first?
Yeah.
All right, forget everything I said. I give up. Never mind.
All right. If you know where donkeys come from, send us an email, and let us know. So, all right. Well, we
Yikes.
are just past the hour mark. Or I guess maybe we will be in a few seconds, since I
Yep.
started recording a few seconds before the podcast actually started. But should I generate another list, or should we just call it here?
Let's call it here and save some of that other content for our next wonderful
Oh,
episode
yeah.
when we haven't thought of a thing
Prepared
to do.
anything. So, all right. Do you want to pull up an Olive Garden quote?
Sure,
We
I'll
forgot
pull
to
up
do
an
that
Olive
last
Garden
time.
quote. Yeah, we didn't do it last time. Should I give 2 Olive Garden quotes this time?
I think one's probably enough. Unless you want to give two. I'm not opposed to that. Honestly, this website's pretty good, but it generates some duplicates. If only
I
we
think
got into
my,
sewing machines.
My suggestion, if we did this again, would be to be a bit more, just a
Selective?
tiny bit more selective.
Yeah, you're
Not
right.
much more selective, because I definitely think there were things that came up that I wasn't expecting to have anything interesting to say on, and then we spent a couple minutes on it anyway.
I think we just need to talk about animals less.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling that I got.
This list generated chess.
Chess? We could have talked quite a bit about
This
that,
is like
I
the
think.
third time I've seen Americans come up. Hippopotamus again. Vegetables again.
All right, our Olive Garden quote today comes to you. Have I said this one before? Maybe I have.
You have to say it for me to know if you said it before.
Have I used the line from Thrift Shop?
I think so.
Oh, darn. It's a pretty good one.
Just use it again. No one's gonna know.
All right. If you care about the Olive Garden quote, please email us some
And-
source material so I can stop looking up Kids Bop lyrics. Or at the very least, give us a new theme that we can look up instead. You know what? Here's a new idea. This is going to be a really dumb idea, and it's not going to work that well, but we're going to do it anyway. I'm going to go to Wikipedia. I'm going to look up the article of the day, and I'm going to read like the first sentence of the Wikipedia article, followed by the Olive Garden line, and it's just going to be really dumb.
Yeah, it's
Um,
gonna be very stupid.
Oh, geez. Elasmosaurus was a large marine reptile in the order Plesiosauria here in the middle of this Olive Garden.
Maybe we should just forego the Olive Garden quote.
All right.
Uh,
I propose that we have peaked. That Olive Garden quote right there is the best it has been and the best it ever will be, and therefore there's no reason for us to ever do another.
Yeah, you're objectively wrong. We peaked previous to now, and we've just hit the low point. So there's no reason to keep trying. So we're gonna stop, I guess. And if you want us to keep doing it, let us know in an email. But I doubt anyone actually is interested in that. So -1 bit each episode. So all right, thank you for that, and thanks for listening, everyone. Send us an email about anything in this episode. Otherwise, I'm Alex,
I'm Alex.
and this has been Joel.
Joel.